Lord Chelmsford moved forward from the Natal border on the 20th of January, and his column spilled over this neck of land here on my right and established a big camp which spread across the base of the mountain here behind me. Already at that stage Lord Chelmsford was concerned at reports that the Zulu army might be coming to attack him. There's several miles of open countryside off towards Ulindi in this direction, but the far distance is blocked by a chain of hills, and it was this area that Lord Chelmsford was particularly concerned that the Zulus might move through undetected. On the 21st he sent out a strong reconnaissance to scour through those hills, and late that evening, about 12 miles away, on the banks of the Mangani Gorge, his patrols discovered some Zulus moving off across his front. When the message reached him at 2 o'clock in the morning here at Isandlwana, Lord Chelmsford decided that he would preempt the Zulu movements, and he gave the orders that about half of his force be made ready immediately to move out. And before it was light, they marched off down the plain here, hoping to catch the Zulus as they were moving. In fact, of course, the Zulu army had slipped across his front and had moved into these hills behind him. Colonel Durnford, being ordered up from Rorke's Drift when he arrived, heard reports that Zulus had appeared on the crest of these hills over the back here, and Durnford decided to split his own troops and to ride out and see if he could investigate these movements. He himself went along the foot of the hills in this direction, but two parties of his troops, some of them under the command of a Lieutenant Raw, went up onto the ridge here, and in the far distance they spotted Zulu skirmishers driving away cattle. Well, they gave chase, and as the Zulus disappeared over a rise, Raw and his men looked down into the valley below and saw the main Zulu army sheltered there. Immediately the Zulu army, realising that they'd been discovered, rose up out of the valley and swept forward towards the camp. Here in the camp, Lieutenant Colonel Polaine could see nothing of the extent of the Zulu movements and could only rely on reports carried in by breathless mounted men from Raw's patrol. He threw out his infantry in a thin screen facing the hills there, and as the Zulus came off, at first it seemed that those British parties might hold them back. But in fact the full extent of the Zulu attack only became apparent as the Zulu encircling horns, sweeping around on both sides, outflanked the British. Polaine's infantry were forced to fall back. Durnford, who had occupied a donga holding back the Zulu left, was forced to abandon it and retire here, and gradually the entire British force was squeezed into the camp here, their formations broken up by the tents which were still standing, and the fighting then raged hand to hand behind me here as the British were driven through and gradually pinned down, and as the Zulus concentrated in overwhelming numbers and in desperate and brutal hand to hand fighting, here by and large they were wiped out.